welcome to Game Off number 14. This week we got news about microtransactions in Call of Duty and the new Mario Kart mobile game. Good news, there is no good news. We also got our Fireside chat, and we got a great showcase this week. Fucking Link's Awakening and Control. Two extremely good games, or so we've heard, or have played. Anyway, I'm your co-host, Brent, aka Arcadia.
I'm Andrew, aka Solid Talker.
All right, and let's kick it off. Episode 14. News this week. You excited about microtransactions in the news, Andy? You ever get sick of them?
Man, I subscribe to Jim Sterling, so they're always in the news for me. I hear about them every day. It's like a constant, that's, in my life, that's just the muzak that plays in the background, is Jim Sterling talking about microtransactions. And at this point, I just find it soothing.
And his warm, lovable body is the elevator.
Oh yeah, and his very, very soothing voice. It's kind of like how, after a child is born, you get him a little white noise machine that simulates the sounds of the womb. Like, that's where I'm at. This is not a weird analogy. It's perfectly fine. I need to have that kind of noise from him in the background at all times. Otherwise, I feel and realize that I'm not in a safe space anymore, and I have a meltdown, and I will wet myself.
Oh, you snowflakes.
What was the question?
Emotions. I don't remember. Microtransactions.
Oh yeah, my favorite.
All right, so let's kick it off with something slightly more expected. Mobile games and microtransactions sort of go hand in hand, but Mario Kart Tour, Nintendo's latest and greatest, really amps it up to a whole new level. On top of all the microtransactions just to get new vehicles, new characters to drive, they also expect you to pay $5 a month just to race in the faster version of the game. So if you like just plodding around in the slow, mediocre version of the game, you can do that for free. If you want all the new characters and the new cars, you got to pay for them. It's random gamble style, and then also you have to pay a monthly subscription to be able to race faster in case you get bored of the base game. Not a one-time fee to remove ads, which I'm sure something everyone's seen in mobile games, but no, it's a subscription, meaning that you would pay $30+ a month or a year.
Have you played this Mario Kart Tour game?
So I tried it a little bit before this episode just to get understand it better, and there's so much that you have to get to before it even lets you gamble, and it's not fun, that I gave up. So
oh my god, it's the least fun game I've played on mobile in a long time. And I primarily on mobile play solitaire games and match 3 games. And those are consistently I played, I think I was telling you about it, Weed Match 3 Candy Jewel Match Game, or whatever the hell it was called.
Yeah, for all you reefer maniacs out there.
Yeah, Crush Weed Match 3 Candy Jewel Cool Puzzle Games by Free Match 3 Puzzle Games Firm Extreme.
That sounds like a real game. I believe you.
It is definitely a real game and not like one of those AI things that writes game descriptions if you feed it enough garbage sample text. I have never been. I played a lot of mobile games for racing, even that were considerably more fun than this. The controls are bad. The speed is. You would have to pay for that speed, faster race thing, because the speed is so slow. Those races go really so slowly. It's painful.
Yeah, I mean, I played Magikarp Jump for probably a good 2-3 hours, and this I could barely get through the tutorial. I was like, when will this end? I just want to see how the microtransactions really are. And then it continued to be like, oh no, before you do anything, you have to finish the first cup. And I was like, well, I'm uninstalling this shit.
Yep.
But neither here nor there. Game's not fun. Don't support it. Also, please don't pay a monthly subscription just to play the real version of the game.
Don't give them any money. Don't give them a dime for it. It's so lazy, and they've been talking about it for so long, and it feels like Nintendo. because they're always so slow with things on mobile, and they're slow with things on network and multiplayer. It feels like they just they just found out about microtransactions. Like, it just, oh, let's just do all of them. Let's just catch up to all the other companies that have been
Let's
doing
do
them.
everything possible.
Yeah, they're looking at something like Dungeon Keeper Mobile that EA put out a couple of years ago, and let's just do that. Let's just all the things that they did, bring it into our game, and let's do it all at once.
Yeah, they continue to use their like key franchises as test beds, and it like just feels bad for the brand. But then again, there's so many fucking people playing mobile games that I guess it makes up for it in profits, and they are able to shower off their filthy bullshit and sleep well at night.
I mean, at least I didn't like it, but at least the Animal Crossing Pocket Camp game made sense as a mobile game. Like, that style of gameplay from Animal Crossing and from the Pocket Camp game at least made sense on mobile. But the Mario Jump game, I don't know, I didn't get it. That Miitomo game or Miitomo experience was weird. Like, I don't know why they don't take some of their older, lesser used franchises. Like, Pikmin is ripe for mobile use. Brain Age is ripe for mobile use. Cool. I mean, hell, even like,
I feel like Brain Age already spawned a billion other like imitators.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I mean, Pikmin is a great place to use, great place to do mobile. Yes. What the hell?
You're literally just flicking Pikmin everywhere.
Advanced Wars is a great candidate. I've played plenty of games like Advanced Wars on mobile.
Yeah, I mean, Fire Emblem is basically the same franchise, just in a different universe, and that is their most profitable mobile game. So yeah, Advance Wars is just begging to be done.
Although Fire Emblem was also no stranger to microtransactions.
Yeah, the entire game is based around like loot box gambling, and it's horseshit also, but it's like expected horseshit at this point. Like, definitely don't support it, but also like be aware that it somehow can get worse than that. Like, it's
so like much worse.
It's yeah, I can make some comparisons, but I don't think I'm going to go down that road. Yeah, so I mean, just to jump into the console space and more quote unquote traditional gaming, we're seeing this also in the latest Call of Duty game, biggest franchise in the world in console games, somehow announces that crossplay is going to be available for everything, and everyone's like, oh yeah, and it's like basically a remake of the original game that like got Call of Duty popular in Modern Warfare. And
so far sounds good.
Like, everyone's been like, yeah, it's time, Call of Duty's getting back, like everyone's gonna be playing this again. And then just this week they announced that there's an entire mode of the game, the one I was most excited for, is not going to be on PC or Xbox for a year, which means there's going to be another Call of Duty game coming out by the time that this mode is out. Also, you can't get guns through traditional progression anymore. They come out of loot boxes. What the fuck is going on?
I mean, this is the same company, because wasn't it the Modern Warfare 4 remastered where they sold map packs again?
Yep, that's exactly it. It wasn't like a Game of the Year edition, even though it was like 8 years after it originally came out.
And didn't they also actually add? I don't know if it was loot boxes or just like gun skins to the game as well.
Yep, they added microtransactions to a game, to a remaster that they didn't even bundle all the DLC with. And also, for it was like a year and a half where you couldn't buy it standalone. You also had to buy like the Super Edition.
They held it hostage.
Whatever. Yeah, it was literally hostage. And then when they saw the sales dip, they were like, we should probably start selling it standalone. And they did. It's just the grossest company, Activision, who's their publisher and IP owner.
I'm sure Activision pushed for a lot of those things as well, if not all of them.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, if you go to the subreddit and look at what the devs are saying, they're like, we wish we had a say in any of this, but we don't own these properties. We don't own the publishing rights. We don't make any of these decisions. Please stop shouting at us. And meanwhile, Activision's sitting on their fucking golden toilets, just sharding all over the gaming community and
Yeah,
still making hand over fist
they're bad people.
money.
They're bad people doing bad things.
They are
I
definitely
feel very
Hitler
comfortable just
racist.
saying that.
I think you're within your rights because like a lot of people try and get away with a lot of shit in the gaming industry, and Activision tries to get away with fucking all of that shit. Everything, every single possible grimy move that any other company's done, Activision has also done it or one-upped it. But I don't want to turn into just slamming Activision because
No, I mean that's fine. I'm happy to slam Activision.
I'm sure they know they're gross.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they do. And is that Bobby Kotick? Bobby Kotick?
Yeah,
Who's the Activision guy? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's very aware of how much everyone hates him, and he's living in his own little bubble where they just hate me because they're jealous of me, or they just hate me because they don't understand capitalism or some nonsense like that.
I mean, yeah, I mean, if you're gonna take capitalism completely literally, like, yeah, yeah, I guess you should just rape the consumer. Cool, thanks, Bobby.
Yeah, he's well, I don't know. They're lucky that they own companies and franchises that people will just hand money to. They will give most anything Blizzard creates money, regardless of how shitty it is. People just give Blizzard money, just like people give Bethesda money. They just give them money. They give Rockstar money. Doesn't matter what they do.
Yeah, I mean, BlizzCon still sells out every year, even though they haven't announced a new game at it in like 9 years. They just go to play the same game that they can play at home.
They announced Diablo Immortal.
That's a mobile game, Andy.
It's still a new game. They announced a new game.
All right. We're gonna get literal. We're gonna get pedantic here. I see.
Did that even get released?
No, I don't think so. I think I saw it in the pre-registration section of the Google Play Store not long ago.
Okay. I don't think I've I think I've actually only pre-registered.
Someone would talk about it, right? If it came out, there's got to be like 5 people that care about a mobile Diablo game.
Let's see, Diablo Immortal coming soon. Okay,
coming soon. All right. Well, anyway, stay vigilant out there. I cannot believe we're still in full regression mode on microtransactions. Like Nintendo in their innocence into the mobile game, like I could see how they just are completely flubbing this, but Activision is going out of their way to be grimy about this shit. One of the best things about the multiplayer was that you could progress and you can get interesting guns, but the guns were always like well balanced. So you can play like you'd unlock one and be like, oh cool, a new gun, and then you play with it like, oh, it's not so good. It's not as good as my old gun. Now you're not going to get that opportunity. You're going to have to either get lucky or pay money. And I honestly was considering getting it because it was impressive how much goodwill and good press it was getting. And one of the reasons I really wanted to get it too is they announced Spec Ops was coming back, and that's the mode that's either entirely or partially missing from the game on Xbox and PC. It's not super clear because it's a part of Spec Ops called Survival, and I don't know what that is because there wasn't separate Spec Ops modes back in the day. It was just Spec Ops. Like there were missions that you could do in co-op, and I did them with a good friend of mine, and we were talking about how they were coming back, and we were both excited, and now I don't give a flying fuck about this game anymore.
No, you don't get that. You don't get that anymore. There's no money in that.
Yeah.
There's no money to be made in making a game and selling it.
Yeah, clearly not. I mean, Sony doesn't make first-party games to huge success or anything.
Yeah, but it's different there because what's the next topic?
So different. All right. No, I mean, you can stop bemoaning these these tyrannical fools for a minute. I think we had a similar discussion in one of our earlier episodes. I'm sure there's going to be some overlap there.
I'm fine having the discussion as often as possible because there's always going to be new people that are going to want our extremely original hot takes on microtransactions. But more importantly, I think it's too easy to forget that this wasn't a thing 10 years ago or 15 years ago. This wasn't, you think back to, it was last generation. It was, because I remember like the big ones were Oblivion with the horse armor. That one, that everyone remembers, the horse armor DLC.
Yeah, the original cosmetic DLC.
Yep. Yeah, everyone remembers BioShock 2 having the on-disc DLC.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think was it Street Fighter 5 that was one of the really early games to be released unfinished. And like they were just like, they released it with only like 5 fighters or something like that. I'm trying to remember the details of.
Yeah, it was something really weird. Like the multiplayer wasn't done, and there was there was missing like half of the core fighters that everyone expects.
And Dead Space 3 turning into a survival crafting game with microtransactions. And like this is just last gen. We're not going back far.
Yeah.
Once games could rely on you to have an internet connection and could, reasonably say, all right, this guy probably, all right, let's just shovel it all in. Just shovel it all in there. See what we can get away with. And that's like, cause like someone who just started playing games the last 10 years, they don't remember that it wasn't like this. It doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah.
Madden games just used to be Yeah, no, we won't. But like I feel bad, especially for kids who really into Madden or FIFA or the NBA games. Like, I remember playing. I had a lot of fun with the 2000s Maddens, where you just bought them and then you owned them, and then you played through. And you had, I think it was 08 when they added Superstar mode, which was a shit ton of fun in Madden.
Yeah. There was a time not long ago where Ultimate Team wasn't microtransaction based, and now there's reports of people paying like $10,000 to get the Ultimate Team.
Yeah,
which is preposterous for a game that comes out yearly.
So yeah, just any of you youngins out there, just remember there was a time before now, in warmer, better days, where none of this existed.
It was actually cooler back then because of the lack of global warming.
Yeah, oh yeah, it was. Everything was cool and breezy, and the trees were a little greener.
Money used to sprout out of the ground.
And they used to still make stuff with trans fat in them, so like snack cakes tasted really good.
I thought
like
you guys never didn't have a flavor.
That's what they tell me, but like I distinctly remember McDonald's fries tasting better 10, 15 years ago. And it can't just be because it was after going to karate and I was really excited that my mom was taking us to McDonald's. That can't be a part of it. It's definitely the trans fats.
I think your body was just craving the salt.
Constantly. 100%. That hasn't changed. We've gone way off topic here.
Yeah, well, I mean, our next segment's almost entirely off topic too. Hey, Andy.
Oh, yeah. Hey.
How you feeling today?
Okay. Feeling all right.
What are your feelings about, what are your feelings about alien stock at Area 51? Alien stock.
Alien stock?
I'm just reading.
Alien stock. I'm
aliens. Oh, like one word.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It makes sense to me now too. I read it as written.
Okay.
Thanks, Domingo.
Okay. Yeah. Alien stock. Okay. I'm thinking like stock of alien things at Area 51, like investments in aliens at Area 51. Like,
I thought,
was there some part of this I completely missed?
I thought it was since it's like a rescue, like aliens.
Yeah, aliens are stuck
unstuck
at Area 51. Yeah. As a kid, I was obsessed with Area 51. I loved the idea of it, that there was this secret base in the middle of the desert that could have anything in it. Like, who knows what kind of crazy ass shit the government was hiding in there. Because even if it wasn't aliens, and I only kind of believed it was aliens at the time, but even if it wasn't aliens, it was experimental aircraft. Like, what kind of crazy experimental aircraft are there? Do they have hovercrafts? Do they build a hoverboard or like a land speeder? What do they fucking got over there? I was so excited at the idea. I remember I had a friend that, because we were cool kids, we wouldn't go out to recess. We'd sit in the library instead. And we would sit in the library in like 5th grade and just talk about Area 51 and like what we think it would be like to go there and what kind of shit they've got under there. And do you think like you could sneak in there and see it, or like maybe they've got lasers? Like, it
like
was
guarding lasers, like ones that would chop you into bits, like in Resident Evil.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. Laser defenses, laser security, laser guns. I was convinced that they had lasers down there. And much like a lot of kids got into, Harry Potter in their formative years, or get to Star Wars, I was really into the idea of Area 51. That was like, I had a lot of alien stuff. I remember I had a little pendant that was made of pewter with an alien on it. Oh, wow. I was super into it. Yeah.
You're definitely a subscriber.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was super into it. I didn't go to Alien Stock this year. If I'd lived closer, I probably would have. Like if I was like, single and had that kind of freedom to just get up and take a trip in the middle of the week, because it seemed like a fun, especially seeing like the pictures of people just kind of hanging out and holding up weird signs about aliens and just generally having a good time. Like I like those kind of stories.
Yeah.
Where just people get together, usually from the internet, and just kind of defy expectations and have a reasonably good time.
Yeah.
And don't do anything too weird or evil.
Yeah, I'm glad it evolved into what it was, because at first it was just like an annoying meme, and then everyone was like, no, we're actually going to go. And I was like, oh, that'll probably be fun, actually.
I loved that one image of the kid Naruto running behind the reporter.
Yeah.
That just made it for me. That was great. I'm glad someone was able to pull that off. Because that was it. Like that right there was all you needed for the story to wrap itself up. Mm-hmm. Like if that was all that came out of it, was just a reporter goes out there and there's like 2 people and one of them runs behind the reporter like that, I would have considered the whole meme a success. This is all worth it. But to have it actually be a fun event, and I hope it's something that, like, it'd be interesting if that's something they just start doing yearly. Just every year get there and another raid Area 51 type thing. Maybe raise some money or something like that. Who knows? But
yeah, they're planning a more legit thing too in Vegas, from what I heard.
Like raiding Vegas, or just doing a larger event in Vegas?
No, like the original guy that set the whole, like, created the Facebook event. He, I guess, was working with some event coordinator, and they couldn't get it all together for the actual date. So they're going to be doing something like later on in the year once they actually figure their shit out. But it's going to be in Vegas. And then I guess that would be the official Area 51 raid, quote unquote.
In Vegas.
In Vegas. Convention center of the world.
The only thing it needs is some B-level celebrity to show up and be kind of like their mascot.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the Hoff will be there.
Oh yeah.
Why wouldn't he be?
That'd be great. Yeah. We need some B-level celebrity to show up and just be kind of like the face of this thing, and we're fine.
Yeah.
So that's my thought.
No, I like it.
I feel like I revealed a lot about myself here. I opened up to our listeners, and I hope they feel as vulnerable and and they feel how much I've put myself out there.
Yeah, I don't know what that's like. The
Being
alien
vulnerable?
thing, not yeah, also okay. That, especially that. Yeah, no, I remember watching like Nat Geo shows about aliens and thinking that they were real when I was like 11. Like, oh wow, it's on Nat Geo, it must be real. And I'm sure that's what like 40-year-olds in Alabama still think. But once I got over that, I had like no exposure to aliens at all. So I was curious, like, I was just sort of trying to gauge temperature of like what this was about. Like if it was going to be like a fucking like bunch of Looney Tunes going down there actually trying to raid the place, and then when it became super apparent that it was just a bunch of people that wanted to fucking sit around and do stupid shit, like then I was like, yeah, dude, that sounds cool.
Now I'm into this.
Now I'm into this. I just like, I don't know. As soon as people start taking things too seriously, it's always like, this isn't fun.
Well, I get worried because then like there's the actual risk of someone trying to jump a fence or run into a military facility.
Yeah, right.
And then there's the chance someone's going to get hurt.
And they shut the whole thing down because one douchehole that misunderstood the entire thing.
Yeah. So I'm glad it ended up turning out okay. No one got hurt. No one was shot or tased by the government. But all in all, a good time was had by all, so I've heard. Now, I've got a question for you.
I don't have time for this.
No, well, it's a quick one. Don't worry. What are your feelings on poetry?
Poetry?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's complicated. I respect the medium. I don't read poetry. Okay. If I found it more gratifying to read it, I would read it more. But I respect it. Back in the olden days in high school and early college, I used to like writing poetry, but it was always for class. Like I never went out and wrote poetry for fun. But like it was enjoyable while I was doing it, and the stuff that I was reading I enjoyed, and I liked that there was like subtext in such short form things. But other than that, I mean, it's like a dying art almost. It's like, it's almost like newspapers, really. Like, and nobody's ever talking about poetry.
Are people writing and reading poetry anymore?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the last I heard, like slam poetry was a thing in the '90s, and I think that's all but died off.
You know, it's actually there was I want to say last year or the year before, my hometown nominated and appointed its first poet laureate.
This is not a big town. What are you talking about?
It's not a big town.
Isn't that like a legit job? Like the UK has a poet laureate, like for the entire country.
Oh, I mean, like the United States definitely does.
Why?
There's, I think each president has its own poet laureate or something like that, and they, I don't know.
So it's just an honorary job, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think they like write poetry about the times. Maybe
they built.
I don't really know what they do.
Strip mall on West Street. Oh, the joy! This is not a good poem. The end. That was a haiku, probably.
There was a. Oh, go ahead.
No, you.
Well, there was an author, a young guy in Connecticut, and I can't remember the author's name or the name of the book that he wrote, but I believe he also wrote poetry, and he's been doing very well for himself. He's got, I want to say he was on Seth Meyers talking about his book, and I went to high school with him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. Is he like a novelist primarily?
Yeah, he wrote a novel about growing up because he immigrated here. I don't remember from where. But it was a story, basically kind of like a semi-autobiographical story about immigrating here and family and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I was interested in it just because it references so many places that I know from around here and I went to in high school growing up. But it sounds like he's coming at them from a different, a much less positive, happy memory, which, maybe that just says something about me and the way I grew up. But
yeah, that reminds me. Have you ever watched the show "You're the Worst"?
No.
So one of the characters is former military, and in one of the episodes it tells a story just from the same perspective it usually does. Like it's like multi-camera, like jumping around, or I guess single camera if there's no audience. But anyway, it jumps around between the characters, a story, B story, all this stuff. Just it goes about its normal thing. The next episode after that was told from his perspective as someone who was like experiencing, like re-experiencing like heavy PTSD and depression. So you saw the exact same episode just told from his point of view and like through this fog that he was living in. And so all the exact same events played out just like with a completely different vibe. And I think it was like one of the most like poignant, impactful episodes of a sitcom I'd ever fucking seen.
I might have to check that out.
So that's just reminded me of that. I like to sing the praises of that show anytime I get the chance. So I think it's really underappreciated. It's on FX. Or FXXXX. One of those.
One of the two.
One of those, yeah.
Ocean Vuong, Vuong, is the name of the guy who was from or went to school in Glastonbury.
Oh,
he just won a MacArthur Genius Grant.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I'm suddenly regretful of the fact that I don't read more. I've always enjoyed it. But yeah, let's not belay the point anymore. Everyone read more poetry. Go to your nearest library. Get a library card.
There was a very short-lived series, I want to say it was on The Escapist, where on the topic of poetry, each episode Jim Sterling and Yahtzee did a poem about games.
Really?
Yeah, I remember it being entertaining.
I know Yahtzee fancies himself a bit of a writer. Is Jim Sterling as well?
I don't know if he's done any. I've read Yahtzee's books. I've read all but one of them, and I enjoy them.
Aren't some of them like I think he's actually, or something?
He has a couple that like he published. Like he published them on Audible first. But yeah, check out Jim Sterling, and I think it's called like Jim and Yahtzee's Rhyme Down Spectacular. Actually, I want to end this with a poem that Jim Sterling wrote on February 2nd, 2017. And this is from his Twitter feed. Secretly, I dream of you. I want to feed you chicken stew. Could these feelings lead to more? 20 points to Gryffindor.
I wonder whose perspective that's read from.
I don't know. I just love it. I think about that poem fairly frequently.
Beautiful. 20 points indeed, Andy. All right. You ready for this showcase, motherfucker?
Yeah, you want to talk about Control? Why don't you tell us about Control?
Yeah, Control's great, dude. That's all I got.
Good.
Moving on.
All right. Well, awesome. Oh no, I did have one question, but like, how great though?
Oh, super great. So Control's by Remedy of Europe. I actually don't remember. I think they're a French studio, but I'm probably wrong.
No, I think they're from Norway.
Norway. That's totally it. I think
Norway and France are essentially the same country.
Yeah. Anyway, Remedy's got a long history of single player, story based, sort of ambient, I guess slightly suspenseful action games, starting with most famously Alan Wake on the 360. They did Quantum Break a few years back, and then recently Control. One thing to note talking about these is they all actually exist in the same universe, even though they're very different.
I think you may have missed a single player narrative based game that Remedy was also partially involved in.
Oh, I know I did.
Yeah. It's a Death Rally.
That wasn't what I was thinking of.
You're thinking of Max Payne. Is what you're thinking of. You're thinking of Max Payne.
But yeah, they made Max Payne 1 and 2. Death Rally. What the fuck is that?
It's a top-down racing game that they made in the 90s, and then before Max Payne. and then they did a Steam re-release
Just
back in 2010.
the game that injected money for their future endeavors.
Yeah, yeah. To fund Alan Wake's American Nightmare, they re-released Network. Sorry, I'm throwing you entirely off here.
Yeah. No, everything's been said now. No. Control. So Control's sort of like the pinnacle of all of these weird sci-fi suspenseful games, where you basically infiltrate the Bureau of Control, this fake bureau that sort of literally controls all the oddities coming out of the world, and it's very much like this brain-bending 4D story. It's not like oh, they suppress news about werewolves. It's like, oh no, there's a giant triangle from another dimension that's giving orders to this bureau, and you have this gun that's an extension of all of these realities, and has also been the same weapon of like legend throughout history, including like Thor's hammer and all this shit. So it's very it's very much like I don't know how to put it. It's fucking out there, and I ate it up so much. Like, it didn't pull any punches. It didn't try and be in a small, like, confined genre. It would literally just hit out at everything, and was like every weird thing all of culture has ever experienced has an explanation, and it's even weirder than you thought it would be. And it's like, oh, okay, I see where you're coming from.
I'm glad someone's endeavoring to explain all of it, because I have several questions.
I mean, I'm sure there's an answer in Control, honestly, because they've explained far more than I could ever possibly imagine, or at least made up their own explanations. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, the game's third-person action adventure, I guess, where you're literally inside the Bureau of Control, which is called the oldest house, which is one of these other enigmas in the universe. I actually read a really interesting article that I retweeted about how even like the name oldest house is probably a misinterpretation of Odin's horse, which is like Yggdrasil in Norse mythology, which is the world tree. Like, there's just so much shit like that. It's just what, like, and this is just this giant brutalist building that just it makes itself known to people who are either worthy or really need to find it, or stuff like that. Man, I could go on all day about all the cool weird shit in that game, but the point being is that it honestly, none of it comes across as corny. The action is phenomenal because you basically get superpowers slowly over the course of the game. You get the ability to pick up
Okay.
objects, which can be fucking anything.
Now let me jump in here, because I can pick up objects.
Well, you can pick up. So basically, with your mind, you can tear out entire like control centers from this giant motherboard, and throw them at enemies, and they explode, stuff like that. And I was honestly shocked by how much stuff in the game you could tear out of like the walls and out of like circuitry and shit. It was all very cool. Eventually, you get the ability to fly. You can like create shields out of nothing. You basically become a superhero slowly over the course of the game, and I eat that shit up so much. There's nothing cooler than eventually becoming like a god in a video game and like feeling like it correctly, not just like the JRPG method where you're dealing bigger numbers, but like literally floating around like Jesus, fucking raining death on people. Truly amazing. Anyway.
Now, I may have gone to a different Sunday school than you. Again, not to correct you again, but that is not the way I remember Jesus specifically.
Well, I did go to an inner city school, so our Jesus is
I was
different.
not. Yeah, I was going to say mine. I don't remember the part of any of those books where, John wrote in his letter to the Thessalonians about Jesus raining down hell from on high. Like that.
You missed the best books then, Andy.
I did. Clearly my Bible was missing some of the coolest parts.
Bitch ass school. Robbed you.
Yeah. They probably didn't want me to know how rad Jesus really was.
He was fucking tubular, man. Um,
He sounds it.
but yeah, you quickly become like the most important character in the bureau. Like that's almost the first thing that happens. I'm not gonna spoil anything because I think this game is like truly should be appreciated by every human. I will say
Wow.
before I let you get to your questions that it is also quite buggy. I definitely had some issues in
Mm.
that regard. If you're curious, I can go more into it. But so it's not like a perfectly polished game, but I must say it was one of the most interesting stories, one of the most interesting universes, and very fun combat, and et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, questions?
So, how much of the game is ripped off of the 2004 game PsyOps: The Mindgate Conspiracy?
From what I understand, you can pick up things into your mind in that game and throw them.
Yes, that's true.
So,
Okay, okay.
torn from
You
the
didn't.
headlines.
Damn, you didn't fall into my trap. I was hoping to steer the conversation just directly to talking about PsyOps: The Mindgate Conspiracy
No,
because I
not
love that
again.
game.
No,
Not again. Okay, that's fair.
I fall into this trap one too many times.
All right. So, how well does the narrative stitch in with the action? Because I know that that's something that Remedy has gotten some criticism from before, where there's some of their work games feel very much like here's the narrative bit and now here's the action bit, and they don't really weave them together very well,
They're
even though they're both good on their own.
Yes, and I will say that that's still pretty much exactly the case. They're very much two different parts of the whole, and they don't necessarily add up to greater sum than their parts. It's just very much the story is super good, the combat is super good, um, and that's pretty much it. In this game, though, it's like semi open world, and that you can revisit places, and like enemies will spawn over in the same areas. So like you go into a big room, you know there's going to be a fight. There's almost always going to be a fight there. Um,
Okay.
there's not a lot of like major bosses that have to relate to the story. There's only a handful, and I think they're actually the bigger bosses are honestly side quests. So you can experience like as little or as much combat as you want. Like you could also make there's no difficulties on it either, so that's like if you're having trouble with it, you just don't do the side quests. All it's going to give you is like new abilities.
Okay. How how linear on the topic of the side quest? Like, how linear and open is it
Um, I would
without giving
say
away too much?
the healthiest amount without being annoying. Like the game doesn't feel empty at all at any point. Even though there's areas that are literally supposed to feel empty, like there's still stuff to do in those places. Um, so you often have to revisit areas. It's a bit like a Metroidvania in a lot of ways. You'll find doors that you just can't go through, but you can go back to them and open them later. My problem with a
Okay.
lot of those is that they're not very rewarding. Whereas, like in Metroidvanias, you might get like a new weapon or a new ability or like a plus stat upgrade. In this, a lot of times when you go back to visit and like explore areas that you couldn't get into before because you got like a higher security clearance or the ability to fly, usually you go in and you just find more mods for your gun or yourself. So there's actually equipment in this game, the guns and mods, et cetera, et cetera. Um, I thought it was a healthy amount of replayable. The game's also not long enough to be exhausting like a like an Assassin's Creed Odyssey where the world's just fucking huge. So you're already spending 60 hours just getting from point A to point B doing the story.
Mhm.
Um, so I think the game and all of its content are like 20 hours. And
Oh, okay.
the oldest house itself is like 5 or 6 levels, and each level's quite fucking big. So I guess I can't say more other than I thought it was a healthy amount of open world without being like open.
Okay. Okay, I think that kinda answers that question. Now, How do you feel the narrative compares? Because you played Quantum Break and Alan Wake, right?
Not Alan Wake, actually, which I
Oh,
regret now.
really?
Because, yeah,
Oh,
there's a
yeah, no,
lot of...
Alan Wake's quite good.
Hmm,
Now, I guess, how would you say the narrative compares to Quantum Break, or Quantum Break,
Quantum
in
Blade.
just in terms of tone and themes?
A lot of times I thought Quantum Break was a bit melodramatic and like I don't know. It was very much telling like a movie story, whereas Control
Right.
is like the video game of video games. Like it's telling an absurd story. It doesn't go in overly into the characters, because like the characters are fine in this. I will say that the story itself is the shining star, and it's mostly because of the mystique of the story. The characters are fine. It doesn't try and like deep dive into every single fucking character because it's a video game. Not that that's always a bad thing, but in some games when it like borders into melodramatic, like in Quantum Break, then it gets exhausting. Um, but yeah, I mean, I thought it was better than Quantum Break in every way. The time mechanics in Quantum Break were quite cool, but I think what I liked more about Quantum Break was or I liked in Quantum Break was the combat more than the story anyway, and Control just has a mega version of the combat and a really, really interesting story to boot.
Okay. How how is the narrative done? Like, how is it actually how is that narrative moved along? Like, is it just through conversations? Is it cutscenes? Is it lore dumps? Is it, like, reading codexes?
I'm not gonna lie to you. There's a lot of like codex-like things in the form of like files that you'll pick up that as collectibles. There's like over 100 of them, so you're gonna be doing a good amount of reading. But honestly, I was so interested in this universe that I read every single fucking one. But to answer
Oh,
your
okay.
question, it's very much told sort of through like stream of consciousness, like the main character thinking and talking to herself and talking to her ally that I won't get into much detail about. And then you'll find someone like in the bowels of what you would think like no one could survive, and then you're just like, oh hey, like hey, what are you doing here? And then that'll move the story along. Um, I
Is
think
that all
that
done in game, in engine, like, while you're actively playing?
yes, there are so at the end of every mission, you'll sort of have like this teaser, almost teaser trailer that'll run, but it doesn't really convey much story. It's just sort of like what to expect from the next chapter. But yeah, there's
Okay.
very few cinematics, which is stark comparison to Quantum Break, which literally had live action cutscenes,
Right.
not cutscenes, full TV episodes after certain portions of that game. It's not that at all. Like quite the opposite.
Okay.
Yeah, much more organically done. I must say, but also fairly minimalistic in that like I've griped about before in previous episode with like Halo, like not telling that interesting of a story and then expecting you to want to read more into it. This tells a really interesting story as minimalistically as possible, and then gives you like the same sort of tools like, oh, there's just lore everywhere, and I read all of it because it was so interesting.
Is reading through that lore necessary to understand the game and to follow along, or could someone who's not interested in reading through the codex actually still enjoy it?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. So like the main part of the story is literally you're trying to find and save your brother. And so none of that is conveyed through the any of the codexes. It just sort of expands on everything that's already happening. Once you go into like a new zone, you'll find files that are about that zone and why these objects are here, these mysterious things that exist in this universe, and all that sort of stuff, like where they came from, the damage that they've done previously. So you basically get background on like every environment that you're in. And I must say, one of the cooler things is that like almost every room is its own unique biome, but they're biomes in that they're like rooms in a brutalist building. Like it's not like you go and there's just a jungle in one fucking room. They're all still rooms in a building, but they're all super unique and interesting in their own ways.
Hmm. Is it all? I'm trying to think of a way to phrase the question without giving away too much. Is it all a single setting, or like, is it all a single map, like a contiguous? You are on one map that you can travel from one end of to the other, like a Metroidvania, or is it like individual zones that okay, you're in area 1 and you play through all of that, and then you move on to area 2 and you play through all of that? If you can kind of give that without giving away too much.
Yeah, I mean, you can in this game you can go straight from the entrance of the building all the way to like the top floor and roam around there. But it's definitely like floor based. So when you're on one floor, all you can see on the map is that one floor. But then you can come back and revisit the whole floor later on. But yeah, it's all contiguous. Most of it's around the central elevator. So you can get from floor 2 to floor 5 pretty quickly, stuff like that.
Okay, that seems pretty fair.
Hmm.
How is how organic does that psychic mind moving combat feel? Does that feel easy to control, easy to throw everything around without it feeling too like? Because I remember some of the Force Unleashed games. Some of the powers would feel very deliberate and not natural.
Yeah, no, I must say it was very easy to use. Some abilities are more useful than others, but like the levitation or the psychic, pulls and stuff, those all worked really well. It's all just bound to like the right bumper, and then once you get a lock on a character, like you're good to throw it. Um, so it's pretty simple and it feels really good. Like as soon as you basically you'll get a diamond on a hero, and then that like whatever you pulled off of, like whatever, like the side of an entire column you've torn off is ready to be thrown, and then you just chuck it at him and it fucking crushes his goddamn bones into dust. Feels great.
And is that those kind of moments of and things that you can interact with and pull down naturally in the environment?
Oh yeah, 100% of the
Like
time.
they don't feel like you just happen to be in a room with 9 refrigerators?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like because you're in this giant bureau, there's so many like weird, bits and bobs that they feel very organic. But also, if for whatever reason there's no stuff, you can literally tear out pieces of the wall, and you just have like a chunk of fucking rebar that you can throw at somebody.
That sounds pretty rad.
It is. The best part, I think the coolest part of the game was when you unlock the upgrade for that ability, where you can then grab rockets out of the air and throw them back at people. I
Oh, no, that sounds
fucking
pretty neat.
shit my pants the first time that happened because I got the ability, but I wasn't really aware what was happening. So I thought I was just grabbing like a fucking, I don't know, like a rolling cart or something from the side and picking it up. And I used the ability. I like at the last second saw a rocket, and then I saw my hand go towards the rocket, and I just fucking grabbed it out of the air, held it in the air for a second, and threw it right back at the dude. And I was like, oh, that's it. That's the one.
Oh, that's a neat. That's fucking cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Comes in handy later too. Pro tip.
So would you I take it you'd recommend Control?
Control is easily one of the top games I've played this year. I cannot believe how much fun I had with it. I definitely enjoyed it more than Quantum Break, and I like Quantum Break quite a bit. So I would argue that it's Remedy's best game. It's not perfectly polished, but yeah, literally everyone should play it. It is a little bit hard at times. There's no difficulty settings. That's the only fair warning I have for you.
Okay. And you were playing it on Xbox?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just realized I don't think we actually had said that.
it handles really well as a third person shooter on Xbox because there's like you just have to be in the general area of like when shooting, and also the pulling ability locks on, so it felt really good on console.
I'm sorry if you already said, is it cover based?
No,
Okay.
You can crouch and like use cover in the environment to stop getting shot, but you don't like leap in and out of cover like you would in Gears of War.
Okay, you're not snapping on or anything
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, no snapping.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, I realized I had actually no idea about that one.
Fair question. I'm pretty sure, actually, I'm like 95% sure that was the case in Quantum Break, but for some reason I'm not confident. It's been a while. Been like 4 years.
Yeah, that was I think 4 years sounds about right. 2015, 2016. That answers all my questions. Was there anything else you wanted to say about Control?
No, I think we covered all my notes. So good job on the questions, Andy.
Thanks.
Yeah, so highly recommended, especially if you like the brain bending shit. It's not like the X-Files where it's like the truth's fucking out there. It's like everything is possible. Cool game. Play it now. All right, shall we talk about Link's Awakening?
Yeah, let's do it. Link's Awakening is an interesting one, and I think this may be the first. And granted, we're only 15 episodes in, 14 episodes in, but I think this might be the first game that isn't technically a new game that we've done.
Unless you count,
is that right?
Final Fantasy 14 Shadowbringers, which is an X-Pack.
Or my accidental episode about Earth Defense Force 5.
Just from last year.
Yeah. So this is an interesting one because it is a complete remake of Link's Awakening for the Game Boy and Game Boy Color, which is this is Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. It is a top-down 2D Zelda game in the style of the older Zelda games, Link to the Past, Zelda, just Legend of Zelda, and what the hell is the other one I'm thinking of? A Link Between Worlds.
Oh yeah, the newer one.
As the main top-downs, and they had a bunch for the Game Boy Advance, the Oracles and
Seasons,
Minish
Oracle
Caps.
Ages, Minish Cap, yeah.
Yep. And the Phantom Hourglass, Phantom Toll Booth, all those.
Checks out.
Yeah, makes sense. This is very much as it was made at that time, and I think Link's Awakening was originally going to be a Game Boy port of Link to the Past before they kind of ported it, spun it off into its own thing. There's actually a really interesting gaming historian video that I'd recommend anyone who likes Zelda check out about Link's Awakening. It's a really, really interesting story.
Yeah, I didn't know
because it's a much more lighthearted. There's like a lot of jokes in it and a lot of fourth wall breaking. Like there's like a Yoshi doll that you can get in there as part of the main quest story.
Weird.
Yeah, there's like you can walk up to a kid and he'll say like, hold down A to charge up your shot, but don't ask me what that means. I'm just a kid, or something like that kind of very, very Nintendo fourth wall breaking dialogue.
Who told you to say that?
Yeah.
Who's talking to you in the night, little boy?
You run into Goombas from Mario and a little cameo from Professor Wright from the old Sim City games.
What?
Like there's a lot of cameos and jokes in there. The tone of it is very different from other Zelda games, despite being a straight up Zelda game. And Zelda, in case you're not aware, this is in the vein of classic Zelda games. So you have an overworld with about 9 dungeons on it. And you continue to progress through the overworld, going one dungeon at a time, each time getting a new item or ability, which allows you better exploration through the overworld and allows you to get to the next dungeon, eventually collecting the 9 magic MacGuffins that allow you to go fight the big bad and beat the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's basically how a Zelda game works, right?
Yeah, that sounds Zelda.
That kind of covers it.
100%.
Yeah. Top down, you've got a sword and a variety of other weapons that you use to kill stuff.
Yeah. Eventually get the Master
combat
Sword, I assume.
Yep. You've got your combat is slash sword at them, There's no complicated combos or anything like that. It's slash sword or take damage. They and because it is a 1-to-1 remake for the most part of Link's Awakening. So secrets are exactly where they were. The tiles are exactly laid out the way they were, with a couple of exceptions. So it is and it isn't a new game. It's very weird. I made a list of what they added and changed, and I want to hit a couple of them just because it's very interesting for a Zelda game. The old Zelda games were almost like they were screen based. So you were on a screen that was, whatever, 12 by 12 tiles by 12 tiles, or however big it was, and you would have north, south, east, west, and up, down as possible exits, and those would take you to the next screen, which was the next room, either on the overworld or in a dungeon. They've gotten rid of that. So now there are no over transitions in the overworld area, and a lot of the dungeon areas don't have transitions either. So it's just kind of, everything feels more fluid and connected, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And it screws me up occasionally because I played through Link's Awakening 4 or 5 times on Game Boy.
Oh wow!
Like it was one of my go-to play during summer break games.
Yeah, Jesus, every summer break. Holy shit!
Oh yeah, I loved that game. And I get messed up occasionally because I'm used to the screen layout being like, okay, this thing here where the secret's supposed to be is 2 from the top and 2 left and 1 down from the top, but that's on a screen based system.
Yeah.
When it's more fluid, you don't have that clear that's the corner anymore.
Did you have a lot of experiences like that where you remembered exactly where secrets were?
Oh yes, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I'm sure you remember from like playing Pokemon where you're just walking around like, oh no, I know there's a Pokeball behind that tree.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You just 100%, it's right there. 100, like, and then I had that when going back and playing, Let's Go Pikachu, where you're walking around the theater, was like, oh, it should be right there, should be right behind that tree there, and yep, there it is.
There it is.
The old Zelda, you had A and B because it was a Game Boy game, and so all of your weapons and abilities were mapped to either A or B, and you would swap them out constantly. So if you had your sword and shield out, you couldn't have any other abilities to use. In this one, they've mapped a lot of the buttons. So sword is just always on B, shield is always on right shoulder. And then you have X and Y that you can assign to 2 other things, which completely changes the combat. Because you always have your sword and shield available, and then you can also pull out the bow and arrow or the bomb or your anything else that you want to use. So that the combat is a lot easier, and you don't have to keep switching between items like you've had to do in some Zelda games, like when you're progressing through an area.
Yeah, go in and take off the choo-choo bombs.
Yep. And then, oh wait, no, okay, I gotta switch. Okay, now I get to this room, switch to the hook shot, get across. Okay, now in the next room, switch to the bow and like, you don't have to do that. They've made that a lot easier. One of the other things they've done, which is amazing, and I hope they do this for every Zelda game going forward, is this in the dungeons, when you solve a puzzle in a room, like you move the blocks around to open a door, it's just solved. If you die and go back to the beginning of the dungeon, doesn't matter, that room's solved. The door's just open, just walk through. Everything doesn't reset when you leave and re-enter the dungeon, or you leave and re-enter the room.
Well, yeah, they did that in Breath of the Wild, didn't they?
That maybe Breath of the Wild didn't have the same kind of like longer dungeon structure.
Yeah, I guess even the dungeons that they had were very much not that long, but I think it still did remember your like solutions.
Yeah, I think there was less. The dungeons I think were a little bit more linear. So you weren't constantly backtracking, going from the beginning back out, then you can go to this area, then go back to the beginning, they'll go through, it was more of a linear progression. But so this was huge because I don't think they had that in Link Between Worlds, and I remember that driving me nuts.
That's a hot improvement for sure.
Yeah, really good. Really good. And there's tons of little things. They added amiibo functionality, which is dumb and you shouldn't do it.
Right.
They improved, like now you can actually, like a lot of games have now, where you can go and see a log of all the conversations you've had. so you don't have to walk all the way back just to have the same conversation with someone because you forgot what they said.
Hmm.
Little things like that.
That reminds me of a really random feature, and I don't know if any other games have done this, other than maybe some modern games more subtly. But Final Fantasy II had this feature where you could like learn certain words, and then when you talk to certain people, you would have different dialogues if you knew the word or not, and it would be like highlighted. I know you like in modern like open world JRPGs, you'll get new dialogue options and stuff. That's essentially the same thing, but I always thought that was like the coolest feature, and then I just never saw it again.
That does sound interesting. I kind of want to go and look into that and see that in practice.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, you talk to somebody like in a random place, like in a bar or something, and they just mention offhand, like, "Oh, go to like the Heartwood Forest," and like suddenly you knew about the Heartwood Forest. So like your dialogue would change with fucking everyone, and it would be
Oh,
like
interesting.
underlined and stuff. And I think there was some interaction with the word itself. I don't remember how it worked exactly, but I remember it being really unique. Even and I didn't play it like on NES. I played it like when it re-released on PS1. So like, there was plenty of JRPGs out at that time.
Neat. Well, I'm gonna have to check that out. I've
Yeah.
never played two, so I would definitely be interested to see how something that early on hit that kind of dialogue change.
Yeah. Curious how that holds up. But anyway.
Hmm. Yes, that's my kind of summary of what's going on in Link's Awakening.
All right. Well, so questions. Is the style jarring at all? Link looks a bit like fucking Pinocchio in that game.
You get used to it in about 10 seconds.
Okay.
It's very quick. How because there's a little animated intro, which the original game had as well. And this is much
Oh, cool.
nicer looking, and then it just dumps you right into in game. I didn't know to explain. The general story is you're Link, you're sailing across the ocean somewhere, a storm hits, and you end up shipwrecked on Koholint Island. So game does not take place in Hyrule. Zelda is not in it at all. Ganon is not in it at all.
Hmm.
Um,
This is actually pretty unique amongst
yeah, it's
Zelda games.
very different from a lot of the other Zelda games, which is why it always stood out for me as one of my favorites because I played most all of them, other than kind of the ones that are harder to get in the United States.
Yeah.
And this one always stood out to me as just this is a very different experience.
No, there's not like sailing mechanics in it like there is in Wind Waker, right?
No. You start the game, and that's the premise is you're shipwrecked on this island.
Is it? I. It's been a while since I looked at the lineage and where all the games fall in the timelines and stuff. But is this Link the same Link as any other
Oh
timelines?
God, I have no clue.
I guess it doesn't matter
I
that
don't know
much.
which of the storylines, which of those three branching paths this one ends up on. I never studied the timeline and flowchart
It's
when that all got released.
It is quite interesting. For people who don't know, Link sort of gets reincarnated every like 1,000 years or something. I forget how they explain it, but in all of the Legend of Zelda games, you're not playing as the same Link or the same Zelda, with few exceptions. It's very,
Look,
very, very interesting.
I'm checking. Okay, so this looks like uh, okay, so after Ocarina of Time, you have the two timelines of the hero is successful or the hero is defeated.
Hmm.
This is the hero is defeated timeline that takes place after A Link to the Past. So this is the same Link as in A Link to the Past,
Oh,
and takes
interesting.
place afterwards. This is the era of light and dark, according to this timeline I'm looking on here.
What's the other timeline called?
Um, this is Hyrule's decline in the last hero. There's under the hero is successful. You have the Dark World and Hero's Descendants, which is where Majora's Mask is, or the Hero of Wind and a New World, which is where the Wind Waker and Tingle's Balloon Flight are.
Tingle's Balloon Flight. Okay. Well, not to get too much into the lineage of the entire franchise. I'm sure that's not very
Yeah.
interesting to listen to, but uh, It's truly a wild thing to behold and very unique in the industry. Um, is it new enough to justify being on the list, or is it just a stylized remaster?
That's really tough. It's very hard to say because I can't even really think of something to compare it to because it's not a remaster. It is a fully rebuilt game from scratch.
Hmm.
Um, and so and it's not like Let's Go Pikachu where they took the premise of the game and reinvented it. It literally is the same game, but it's also entirely new and rebuilt. I would say that it should go on there because I believe that this game can stand on its own without context.
Hmm.
So, like, I'm not to go off on a huge tangent here, but like, I'm a big believer that for a movie to be considered great, it needs to be able to be watched without context. I don't think that Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers can be a great movie on its own because I don't think it makes sense if you haven't seen Fellowship of the Ring. I don't think you can just take a random person and dump them right into Two Towers and then just have them watch it.
Yeah.
So like I see the Lord of the Rings trilogy as a great series of films, but I don't believe that the second or third one can be great on their own because they can't be enjoyed on their own. They have to kind of be enjoyed as part of a larger piece.
Hmm. That's a fair
And
point.
I think a lot of remasters that come out now, like this is a bad example because it's the games weren't all that great to begin with, but the Crash Bandicoot remasters, I feel like you can't enjoy those without context. Like you kind of need someone to explain to you, like, hey, this isn't actually a new game. This is a remake of an old game, so view it through those eyes.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And
That's why it's stupid and hard and
yeah,
weird.
that's why these mechanics are kind of awkward feeling and the jumping is horrible. So
Yeah.
like I think that Link's Awakening could just be handed to someone as just a Zelda game. This is just a Zelda game that exists because I
Hmm.
don't think that its mechanics are so outdated or so different or so obtuse that they wouldn't make sense for someone who's only known Breath of the Wild or who's only known Link Between Worlds
Yeah.
or someone who's only played Top 10. So I would say it can stand on its own and that it would deserves to be on the list. Because I
Okay.
think it's a pretty major
Fair enough.
release as well.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I sort of go back and forth with like even Resident Evil 2, which is like a full fucking remake, like not even reminiscent of the original game. But
Right.
yeah, so I mean if you feel like it deserves a spot, you're the one who played it. So
Yeah.
good enough for me.
And I do. So there.
All right, moving on. Does this feel like a console game? It seems like it would have been a de facto 3DS game a few years back, but I guess they don't even pretend that that's a console anymore.
Yeah, I can't imagine playing this on the big screen. I've only been playing this handheld. I don't think it makes sense on the big screen. I don't think top-down Zelda games make sense on the big screen. I think they make sense handheld. I think that's where they
Where
I
you're
mean,
looking top
obviously
down at it.
yeah. Obviously, people who played Legend of Zelda or, people who think that Link to the Past is the best in the series are gonna disagree, but I think that it's top-down games like this, just do so well handheld because they're they rely on a small field of view,
Hmm.
and a small field of view feels more natural handheld than it does on a 42-inch screen.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
played I brought the original I brought a Raspberry Pi into work, and at work we've got a 70-inch TV on the wall. I was doing some computer stuff over the weekend, so I set the Raspberry Pi up and was playing the original Legend of Zelda on a 70-inch screen, and it's ridiculous. It's like you just feel like this is so needlessly large and silly.
Yeah.
This
You have to sit like 4 blocks away to appreciate it.
right. Whereas like I think like Breath of the Wild looks great on a large screen like that. Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask or Twilight Princess all make sense on large screens because they're these big games.
Hmm.
But these top-down Zeldas are big worlds, but it's a very small field of view and it's a very small experience, I think. That's my thought on it. So yeah, I think it's not a console game. It's a handheld game.
Okay. Sort of along those lines. I'm considering buying this for an upcoming flight. Can you think of any
Mm.
reasons why that'd be a bad idea?
No, I think this is a great flight game. This is a great travel game.
Perfect.
It's breezy. Like the dungeons are quick. I had to look at a strategy guide once while I was going through here, and I felt very silly once it. Yeah, I know. I've beaten it 5 times already. Y'all can go
All
to
the
hell.
more reason to give you shit.
And it's one that every time I play through this game, oh right, that's where it is. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
The second I looked at it, I was like, oh yep, that's what you're supposed to do. That's where you need to go. Okay. Just, but yeah, I think it'd be a great game for a flight. It's breezy. There's not a lot of there's no real grinding. There's no real thing that you're gonna feel like you want to take a break from it. You're just constantly making forward progress, new area. You're there's no point where you're gonna feel like you've just spent the last 2 hours of your flight beating your head against a wall.
Cool. Yeah. All right. That seems like I probably will buy it then. So I was
Mm.
originally thinking about getting Astral Chain, but that doesn't seem like a good flight game. But
No, that game, that was actually I was trying to decide between that and this for this week, whether I was gonna buy Astral Chain or Zelda, because the one niggling point I've had with Zelda is that it's $60. And there's
yeah.
just something deep inside of me that feels like it should be 40.
I mean, it was probably cheaper than 60 when it originally came out, and not even just because of inflation, but so it definitely
Yeah,
feels grimy.
yeah, it does. It does. I mean, it's and I don't I and it's not fair because I don't think I'd feel that way if I didn't know it was a remake.
Yeah.
Because I paid full price for Link Between Worlds. I paid 60 for that. That was a great game. This is a equally story rich, content rich game,
Mm.
but because I know it's a remake, this is the part. Oh, you don't pay full price for remakes unless Activision makes them.
Call back. Yeah, no, I definitely understand that, but also just knowing that Nintendo games never seem to fucking depreciate in price, that's just like, well, I'm just fighting the tides here.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah,
want to play this
that's
game.
true.
I don't care how shill I feel. Um, you've basically already answered this, but is this a good entry point for people into the franchise?
Oh yeah, I think this would be a very good entry point for someone. I think you can jump right into this and have a really good time without. And I think especially because it is its own self-contained story. It doesn't take place in Hyrule. It doesn't involve any of the big players. I think that it's just its own self-contained story. Someone can jump into it without having to know anything about Zelda as a series or about um, Link as a character or the insane Zelda timeline and how things relate to each other or anything like that.
Yeah, I almost feel bad bringing that up now because anyone who's listening and hasn't played a Zelda game is probably like, "What? Huh? No, no, thank you." But yeah, ignore all that. It matters not at all in the
Yeah,
actual
yeah.
storytelling. Yeah, I mean, that's all the questions I have. Anything you want to add about Link's Awakening?
Uh not really. No, I think it's a great game. I think it's if you like this kind of game, you like Zelda, you like especially if you like the top-down Zeldas, I think it's the best one. I have fonder memories of the original one just because that was like my entry to the series and
Mhm.
I've probably spent the most time playing that. And that game's super hard, whereas this one's just, average hard. So it took me a lot longer to beat that game, but yeah, I think it's a top-notch game. I think if you're looking for this kind of experience, looking for just a fun, breezy game with there's no RPG elements, there's no branching storyline, there's just a honest to goodness, salt of the earth, top-down adventure.
Salt of the Earth top down adventure.
I would recommend it. Yeah. Yeah,
All right.
that's me.
I think that pretty much wraps it up then. And any final thoughts for the episode?
We should probably put things in order.
God damn it! I always forget about that every time. All right, let's do it.
All right, I'm looking at my list here. Uh, I think I'm gonna throw mine at. I'm gonna throw mine right below Sekiro. So I'm gonna put Zelda Link's Awakening as number 6 on our list.
Really?
Yes, I am. I think
I,
it's better than most of the games I've played this year.
I thought it would have been higher. You like Superland better.
Yes, I think I Superland will likely end up just being my game of the year. I'm just Superland was just flawless, except for all the problems.
Except for all the problems. You're a special kind of gamer, Andy.
So yeah, that puts Link's Awakening at number 6.
Well, it's going down to 7th because I'm definitely putting Control up above Sekiro and Devil May Cry.
Oh wow!
I almost want to put it above Kingdom Hearts, but then I realized that I'm a fanboy and I can't do that. No, it really just like there's something special about Kingdom Hearts, even though so much of that game is dumb. I could easily play that game forever. But I also really enjoyed Control. Like, I am shocked at how, like, other than it being sort of stressful because of how, like, suspenseful it is for literally 20 hours straight, and you're just in this, like, in this building that's been overrun by this mysterious, like, this is like just how weird the game. Basically, it's overrun by, like, a frequency. So this, like, and it's not aliens, it's just like interdimensional creatures that exist in a certain frequency and can invade people's minds, and that also
Sure.
for some reason causes people to levitate when they're like frozen by them. Yeah, that's I don't know where I was going with that, but that's just what you would expect from fucking Control, man. I want to put it at number 3. I want to put it below Kingdom Hearts. I kind of want to put it above it, but I feel like that's a good place for it. All right. Well, there you have it. So we got new standings with Control at number 3 and Link's Awakening at number 7. Not going to read off the full list this week, so tune in next week for the full list. And any final notes?
No. Thanks to our producer whose name I've forgotten.
Domingo,
that's right. Thanks for everything you do.
Yeah. We'll have hopefully a new audio setup for me next week. So I apologize for the audio.
Yeah, I don't apologize for mine. I sound great.
Yeah, you do. It's a little bit erotic. All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.